Hi and welcome to Air Forecast Online, or if you've been here before, welcome back. The Air Forecast Online video series is the place where we break down the travel data questions that everyone's talking about. Air Forecast is a big data supplier in travel retail, and if you want to know more about what we do, please follow the link in the description below, and as always, please like, comment and subscribe. In the run-up to Cannes Week, we're going to be breaking down some of the biggest questions for travel retail, and today we're focusing on China and luxury brands. If your team are trying to navigate air travel recovery in China, or they're trying to track changes in consumer attitudes after the pandemic, or if you're trying to figure out how luxury brands can find their way through all of this, then stick around. So let's talk about China and why making sense of Chinese travel data after the pandemic can be so difficult. First off, we all know that travel conditions in China since the pandemic have been tricky. Right now, 25% of China's airports still haven't returned to their 2019 passenger levels. Macau is still the go-to resort for mainland Chinese travellers with disposable income, but this year, passengers are up and sales are down. The same is true of Hainan, but we'll come to Hainan in a minute. Macau presents a particular problem, and this is probably, although some people have said this, not down to just a different mix of visitors since the pandemic, given that five-star accommodation still represents 50% of visitors to Macau. So you're left with the question, is it just that the economy is stupid right now? I mean, that is more likely in the sense that if you look at the national domestic spend in July for travellers on cosmetics, it was down by almost half. So the big challenge for luxury brand companies in particular, the one they're left with now over the next year, is going to be to figure out things like the strength of the recovery against the drag effect of consumer spending, consumer attitudes linking travel and shopping, how the high fixed cost of entry for luxury brands can be deployed, and the issue that luxury brands aren't insulated short term from market and economic fluctuations, and that in the medium term it always used to be the constant passenger traffic growth and the presence of the wealthiest travellers provided any protection at all if there was some. So we have some context. Let's talk about recovery specifics. In May 2020, the Chinese government announced their new domestic international dual circulation strategy. The strategy aims to reorient the country's economy by prioritising domestic consumption while remaining open to international trade and investment. The explosion of luxury shop openings from the DFS group at Chongqing Terminal 3A is currently the best example we've got of, on the one hand, those high entry costs for luxury brands, but also of the benefits of the dual circulation strategy in repatriating spending on luxury goods. It's really important to bear in mind, though, that the strategy aims to produce 5 priority international consumption centre cities as early as 2025, and this is only going to add further to competition levels. As part of the luxury shopper database, Air Forecast tracks 800 separate luxury outlets worldwide in international airport terminals. Aside from Chongqing, Air Forecast estimates there are currently 175 luxury outlets across 11 domestic airports in China. And again, the detail is where things get interesting, because compared with the international sector, China domestically is still in the development stage. Chongqing is a Tier 2 city, and of the 44 other Tier 2 cities, it's down the rankings domestically and even more so internationally. Take a quick look at our ranking of the top 3 brands and the top 3 brand owners across those 800 outlets. As you can see, Burberry is in pole position among the brands, but with the brand owners, LVMH has a 17% market share. So what does this all mean? At the moment, there's no risk that this growth of international luxury outlets is going to stagnate. In fact, the opposite is probably more likely to happen, especially as brand owners react to the new destinations of choice for the affluent Chinese consumers. Our quarterly poll of Chinese travellers was suspended during the pandemic, but it's back with thousands of respondents from Q3 this year, and from analysing its contents, it's clear that Chinese shopping preferences have changed substantially between 2019 and 2023. At the moment, a lot of these changes are happening in the margins, but younger travellers and consumers clearly have different aspirations from the older generations, and also their preferences are different from what they were reporting in 2019. They've changed as well. The poll, for example, tells us that affluent travellers this year are also more likely to be travelling in family groups themselves. For current Air Forecast subscribers, these family groups can be tracked as they pass through their departure and then their arrival terminals using the Map to Data function in our Gateways package. I mentioned Macau, but we have to talk about Hainan Island. Visitors are up, but sales are down on Hainan Island as well. The question is, how can teams assess why this is happening? A lot of emphasis in the press has been put on the restrictions on Daigou traders, and that will certainly be having an effect. But in reality, in July, clothing sales across China were down by a third month on month, and Hainan Island can't be immune to national trends. In the years up to COVID, travel retail was protected by the constant steady rise in passenger numbers in a climate where there was a solid belief and expectation, a realistic expectation of increased purchasing power. Luxury brands continue to have an element of protection from the growth of the middle class and affluent consumers, but conditions are complex and entry costs are rising. With all of these big, difficult questions, this is really where the luxury shopper from Air Forecast comes in. If you're wondering about how you can use this data or how to navigate these questions yourselves, make sure you're on a mailing list. There'll be lots more videos coming out, particularly in the run-up to Cannes. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.